Hello everyone, this video describes the steps I took to replace the keyboard on my 15-inch HP Spectre x360. I ordered my keyboard directly from HP. It came assembled to a brand new top cover, which was perfect for me. I had no tool, so I ordered this kit from Amazon Prime. You also need an ESD strap to keep you bonded to the laptop. The kit included a couple of sharp tools to work with those tiny connectors. They worked really well. The kit also included a magnetic pad, which I used to keep track of where the screws came from. So, unfortunately, to get to the keyboard, you need to remove the back cover, remove all the components, and reinstall them in a new top cover with the new keyboard. At the front corners, you will find two Torx number 5 screws, and then under the rear rubber strip you will find 4 Phillips screws. Here I'm using that sharp tool that came with the kit to remove the rubber strip. So after I pulled on the rubber strip, I realized that there was still a clear plastic adhesive strip under that, and so I had to pull this as well. If you purchased the kit from HP, they will send you a spare rubber strip, so really there's no need to be worried about damaging the one that's already there. So finally, with the rubber strip removed, I was able to remove the 4 Phillips screws, size 0. As you will see, I struggled a little bit to remove the cover, primarily because I didn't want to break it, but as it turns out, all you have to do is lift it straight up and the connectors will let go. So this is what it looks like inside. In the next slide, I show the order of parts removal. I recommend you take notes as you remove the parts, including how many screws, what type of screws, etc., so that you can reverse the process easily without having parts left over at the end. And don't forget to wear a static strap. The most sensitive parts are the memory sticks and the solid-state drive. Luckily, you don't have to touch the memory sticks. They are well protected under metal covers under the black fabric in the center. I forgot to film the removal of the battery, but that was really simple. 5 screws and 1 connector. Next are the fans. I have a few pictures here for reference only, but sometimes it's useful to see where the wires used to run for the reassembly. Each fan has 2 screws and 1 connector for power. The connectors lift up, they don't pull out, so it's pretty easy to remove as long as you don't decide to pull on the wires. Do not do that. Once the fans were removed, I decided to remove the speakers. There are two speakers on the bottom left and right of the cover. Each speaker has two screws, two Phillips screws, and one connector. I didn't have any trouble with the left speaker. I guess left to my left, so that means really it's the right speaker because the laptop is upside down. But for the other speaker, the second speaker, the connector would not budge, so I just left it attached to the motherboard. So in fact, in hindsight, you could decide to just leave the speakers attached to the motherboard. It would not cause you any trouble. Here I show a speaker connector. Remember not to pull on the wire. Only use a tool to pull on the connectors. Here I brought the new top cover. I decided that as I could, I would be able to install parts directly into the new cover instead of keeping them in a spare bin. Of course, you can't do that for most parts because it would be in the way. But certainly the speaker did not obstruct anything, so I installed it right away. The volume control only has one screw and a ribbon connector. Ribbons are released by flipping up a latch. Then ribbon just slides out. If you find yourself applying force, you're doing something wrong. I also reinstalled the volume control directly in the top cover, and that did not cause any obstruction for later installations. And here is a picture of the volume control ribbon with the latch already released. Next, I removed the media card adapter, and that only had one screw holding it in place. And of course, it has a ribbon, and you release the ribbon by lifting the latch, and then the ribbon pulls out easily. Now I had access to the touchpad. It held in place with the 3 Phillips screws, size 0000, and it has one ribbon. To access the screws, you need to disconnect the keyboard ribbon first, and also the touchpad ribbon, and of course the media card ribbon that's already removed. As an aside, you might be able to see in the video that I have my static strap plugged into the audio port. The static strap had a convenient DB9 connector. So the touchpad releases really easily, just lifts up. There it is. And then I reinstalled it in the new top cover right away. Same process, but in reverse. Here's my laptop without the touchpad, and you can see the speaker I wasn't able to separate from the motherboard. Next is the removal of the fingerprint reader. You first have to remove this piece of plastic to release the sensor. The sensor, as you can see, is really thin, so be careful with the ribbon. And then you have to remove one screw that holds the printed circuit board, and then you have to remove its ribbon by lifting the latch like all other ribbon connectors. Next is perhaps the least stressful part of the operation, which is to remove the heatsink. All you have to do is remove 6 Phillips screws and then lift the heatsink. It comes in one piece and it's attached to the vents, the left and right vents. Here I want to remove the USB port, starting with the ribbon. And the ribbon is detached like all the other ribbons. The screw is already removed. There is one Phillips screw holding the USB port. Once the screw is removed, you just flip it up and it comes out easily. I decided to reinstall it right away into the new top cover. It's not causing any interference for later installations. Here's the USB port reinstalled in the new top cover. This is showing me removing the last screw for the motherboard. My bad, I did not count all the screws, but I can tell you they're easy to see. They all have large heads, so there are probably around 5 or 6 screws to remove. So the aim here is to detach the screen from the top cover. In order to do that, I need to access some screws and disconnect some harnesses. And to do that, I needed to move the motherboard from its current location. And so here I am tentatively lifting the motherboard because I wasn't sure really how it was attached and which connectors I needed to disconnect. So here I realized I needed to disconnect, remove the Wi-Fi card. It's held by one screw. Once the screw is removed, you can just slide out the Wi-Fi card from the motherboard. The antennas for Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth are located inside the screen assembly, so I decided to leave the antennas attached to the Wi-Fi card, and the Wi-Fi card then just followed the screen once I detached the screen from the rest of the from the top cover. Here I'm pointing at 2 very small cable harnesses that needed to be detached, disconnected. So now the motherboard is free to move a little bit, at least on the one side. So I took 3 more pictures. It's easier to see those last 2 connectors in the next picture. But in the third picture, you will be able to see the screen harness, which must be disconnected before separating the screen from the top cover. The power cable only goes to the power port and not the screen. Here I decided to relocate the media adapter card to the new top cover because why not? Next, the SSD was removed easily. Almost no force is required. The SSD is very sensitive to ESD, so be careful with that one. It contains all of your data. I highly recommend that you use an ESD strap for this. In hindsight, I should have removed the SSD much earlier to avoid damaging it. Coming up are a couple of close-ups of the right side of the motherboard. You can see the power cable that's connected to your power outlet and also the screen harness. Screen harness connector has the where the letters KHD written on it, and to release it you just flip up the connector, and as shown here, and it that frees up the motherboard. And here is the picture of the hinge, and showing here as the two screws for the on the hinge have been removed, and is showing the routing for the power cable. Here is the screen has been removed. You can see the Wi-Fi adapter card is still attached to the screen, and here's the other side of the screen, and you see the harness for the screen is still attached obviously to the screen part. All that's left to do here is to remove the power cable. You first disconnect the connector and then remove the power outlet itself. Here's my top cover, empty of all parts. The reason I had to remove the keyboard and replace it is that I spilled a cup of coffee on my laptop, and so what I had to do here is use electronic cleaner, and I sprayed this on the keyboard pins just to make sure that the new keyboard was going to work properly. And so now the job here is to reattach the screen to the new top cover and reinstall all the parts back in the new top cover. I did not show you how to remove the screen from the top cover assembly, but it was pretty simple, and you can see here how simple it is to reattach it to the put it back in place to the laptop top cover. So that's it. Use your notes and reverse the process you followed to disassemble the laptop. Please note, when you power up the laptop for the first time after this surgery, you are most likely to get a warning that the CMOS is in the wrong configuration. I think that's because the new keyboard has a different serial number. You'll get a choice to reboot the computer, and that's what I did. It rebooted to the Windows and all was fine. Good luck with this. If I can do it, you can do it.